Hey y'all, what's up? What's up? It's me, K and I'm here as always with my brother from another mother, the one, the only Alpha. How you doing, brother?
We're here on another hot, musty fucking day in the middle of the year. And like usual, we usually start out with some Marvel, and we're going to do that just again. And this time we're going to be talking Loki straight out the fucking gate.
Yep. Oh, and don't worry, wrestling fans. We will be getting to that Hell in a Cell pay-per-view because that shit was straight fire. But
That's next week's.
We kick off with Loki, and pretty much everybody knew, all the little dirt sheets, and everybody knew that Loki was going to kick off right at the moment that we witnessed in Endgame, in which Tony Stark drops the Tesseract and it lands directly in front of Loki, and Loki teleports out of that moment to who knows where. This is where we start Loki. I thought it was a very, very great way to start it, with a scene that, takes you immediately back to the Endgame movie. And it was just a small, quick, little 30-second scene.
Yeah.
In there. And so, yeah, it was a great way to start it. And I like where they went with it. But that first episode gave you a lot of information to kind of deal with. The introduction of the TVA as a whole. I do admit, and I will say this 100% right now, the scene when she smacks him and then his face is just and rippling in time. She's like, yeah, by the way, you're moving at like 1/16th normal time. And by the way, you're feeling every moment of pain.
Every single fucking millisecond of it. Like, oh my God, that is the rawest shit.
She just immediately established her as somebody who takes no fucking shit from the get-go. Loved it. So that's where we get introduced to Loki, and then the TVA. And why don't you kind of give our guys a little bit of an insight as to because have you seen any of this in the comic books? Have you read any of this in the comic books? Like, is this a storyline from the comic books, or is this something that Marvel is giving us, that you think Marvel is giving us straight for the Disney Plus crowd?
I could be wrong, so don't take this as gospel. Okay. But to my knowledge, the TVA is not a comic book product that I'm familiar with. If it is, it's a little more underground, but I'm not so familiar with it, so much so to the point that when they first popped up, I was like, oh shit, is this the Nova Corps? Like, but to my knowledge, they're not a part of the comics, but I think that's really important, and I'm gonna bridge into this with what I say later on. But I do really love the way that this started, because in the beginning, this is Loki. Everybody's screaming back and forth. Loki's actually dead. No, Loki's not actually dead. No, Loki is dead. Loki died. Loki died. Our Loki is dead.
Yes, at the beginning of Endgame, correct?
Yes, exactly. Specific terminology there. Our Loki's dead. And so that's why this show basically goes on to dive into the fact of one of the many Lokis, specifically one that's pretty close to our timeline, it's one that we directly interfered with, is the one that we're following here. And so as we move forward, we basically what happens when a Loki breaks the laws of the multiverse. Lokis break the laws of the multiverse. But as this went along and they explain how multiverses are made and how they're handled, my amazing, beautiful wife was like, well, why are they mad? He's just being another multiverse. Isn't that what they want him to do? Which in hindsight makes a little bit of sense, right?
Right.
And then you realize that he's breaking the laws of the known universe as it fucking exists. And that's why Loki's being apprehended for everything he's doing so far.
And exactly. Like, they bring you into the situation where, well, actually, I think they do kind of explain it when they say that basically the only reason why he was even picked up is because he escaped, during that scene at the end of Avengers. That's the only reason why he's even being brought up in this case. And so because of that, he is in a position where it's he in episode 1, they kind of wrapped this up real nice and tightly. in episode 1, he sees his own death. He sees his own end of film, you know, and so they kind of establish in that moment that this is obviously somebody who is out of time, basically. Not out of time as in he's dead, out of time as in like he's not where he's supposed
the
to
flow
be.
of the multiverse. Yeah.
Right. Now, I will say this. They kind of caught me off guard with the whole what is it, the big lizards, I forget what they call them, the big three,
The timekeepers.
the timekeepers, because it was like, okay, so like, huh, like these dudes have been keeping track of everything the whole time, like what?
If it's really hard to make sense of, but do you know that Galactus is what's called a celestial, right?
Right, yes.
Celestials are the groups of people that have been there since the dawn of creation.
Right.
And as you know, they have no corporeal form, which can be exactly killed or even specifically touched for that matter. They more of exist as an idea. This is basically an interpretation of the Celestials, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
That or some interpretation of the Watchers. Well, the Watcher is a Celestial, so either way, it's like, yeah.
No, I feel you. And okay, so that makes sense. But then like, yeah, it was an interesting story to hear about the creation and what the existence and the meaning of the TVA was, as well, at least through Owen Wilson's eyes, which, by the way, I'd never even, like, that particular character, Morbius, I'm like, Morbius, I'm like, I've never really heard of you before, but Owen Wilson, you played the part perfectly. Like, I just love Owen Wilson as an actor. He's amazing. So shout out to Owen Wilson. But yeah, like, we get to see this character that in the beginning, it feels like he's kind of just using Loki, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. As we got to episode 3, it's starting to feel a little bit different. But yeah, he yanks Loki out from being what I still want to know where the hell people go when they hit him with that stick. Like, do they just not exist anymore? Like,
you're right. You're right. Do they just fucking disintegrate them?
Yeah, because
go ahead. Because I don't think they're just fucking vaporizing people, Yeah, but that's a little too on the nose.
Maybe they are because they're variants. You know what I'm saying? So they're like, you're not really the dude anyway. You're just an out of time. But it's hella funny to me because like I love that scene where Loki's going through the line that's not a line, but the maze thing.
Yeah.
He gets up to the front and the dude's like, I don't have my key. And he goes, and it fucking hits him with it. And Loki's like, where
literally, ticket, sir. There are 2 fucking people in here. Ticket, sir. I don't have a ticket. Zap. Literally. It's fucking great. Man. Oh yeah, and on the note of the roles in this, Owen Wilson absolutely fucking amazing with killing it with that pure Owen Wilson passive aggression that he does oh so fucking well. Not only that, but on my way out of the first episode, I realized that the little talking animated clock that they showed throughout promos and as Loki was interacting with through the show and on is actually voiced by Tara fucking Strong, as in like voice acting legend. Wow, Tara Strong, nice. As in like the voice of half of my childhood. Like that's the voice of Raven from Teen Titans. That's the voice of like 90% of females that has been on any Nickelodeon show you have ever watched. That's Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls. I was so happy to see that.
Shout out, man. That's nice. Nice name drop there. But yes, no. Okay. So here's one aspect of episode 1 that I kind of wanted to get into. I love the fact that in the world of the TVA, the Infinity Stones are like candy jewelry. Like I thoroughly enjoyed that. Go. Like Loki opens up a drawer, like Infinity Stones, like.
Excuse me? Like the Infinity Stones that rip people in half right in front of me?
Yeah.
Those Infinity Stones? And he's like, yeah, they're paperweights. And I had to explain this as well. It's a very important fact that every multiverse has their own set of Infinity Stones.
Okay.
And my belief is that the ones that were used in Endgame and that they went back for are a direct timeline that branched from the main one.
Okay.
Which is why they were able to work.
Okay.
But the whole point of the Infinity Stones throughout any part of comic or movie canon is that every multiverse has their own set of Infinity Stones that don't work in another multiverse. So that's why if you read the comics, you'll see like there's not 5 Infinity Stones, there's 6. And you'll notice the Time Gem in the comics is orange, whereas Time Gem in the movies is green.
Right.
This is on purpose because every universe has their own Infinity Stones. And just like you've seen with Into the Spider-Verse, all of the different characters are not in different styles just to represent like, oh, they're just from different universes. No, different forms of media of the same product are their own multiverse. And that's why it's widely recognized that comics, that's a multiverse. MCU, that's a multiverse.
Got you.
And so
that makes a lot of sense.
Displaced out of their multiverse and put into the realm of the TVA, you've just got some glowy rocks that do fucking nothing.
Somebody brought up, I saw a thing on Facebook where somebody brought up the fact of Loki asking, I think his name was Carlos, for his name so that he could personalize, so that he can personalize his threat. Like it's just classic like Loki, definitely.
Yeah, man.
Loki.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'll say unlike, bro, I tell you this, you have Netflix, right?
Absolutely.
Suggestion for a future show. I'm going to continue watching season 1 and 2 of Ragnarok. They're only 6 episodes apiece.
Oh wait,
it's a Swedish show. It's a Swedish show. Yeah. And it's more about the Norse mythology of Thor than it is like, Thor from Marvel. But yeah, we'll have to review that.
I'm into that shit real good.
But okay. So back to Loki. So episode 2, we are at the end of episode 1, we're introduced to a different variant. And the entire reason why Loki has been saved by Morbius v. Morbius is to capture what they think at the time is another Loki variant that's been killing off members of the TVA.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 2 introduces us to said variant. Without skipping over a lot that happened in episode 2, and I mean a lot that happened in episode 2, you are taken through an emotional ride with Owen Wilson, with Morbius and Loki, where there just seems to be this relationship where Loki's kind of like begging for attention, so to speak, like he wants Morbius's approval for some reason, but you feel that kind of vibe in their relationship. So like that shines through in episode 2. I think that Tom Hiddleston shines through as just a comedian with no jokes.
There you go.
Like, what I'm saying? Like he makes everything he does a little funny, and it really shines through in this episode. But your thoughts on episode 2?
God, no, you're right. As we progress through, you can see an immediate evolution of the relationship between Mobius and Loki. Yeah. Within 2 episodes, you can see their dynamic immediately switch from Mobius being the one who's constantly going to Loki, trying to figure out more about Loki, trying to do more for Loki and understand him and get him hooked into this little fucking scheme. Yeah. And then by the end of episode 2, Loki is the annoying little chitter chatter side box falling around Mobius, like pissing him the fuck off. It's great. Going back as well to what you said about they haven't even given her a name, the stern as fuck TVA worker woman is a great lesson in storytelling of how to build a character's personality cohesively without even giving them a fucking name.
Yep. 100%.
But going to Tom Hiddleston, I've said it before on multiple occasions. I love all of the Thor movies. Okay, I love all of them, but I fucking love Ragnarok, and it's my second favorite MCU movie that's ever been made because I feel like they finally let both Tom Hiddleston and Hemsworth really show their comedy chops because they're amazing actors. They're amazing actors, but both of them have such amazing hidden comedy chops. Ragnarok just let that shit loose. Loki is just that, but it's just a whole fucking show of it. It's great.
Yeah,
All of the
it is.
is full of Loki's little side remarks, his little side jabs at everyone around him, and every little bit of I'm the little asshole here to insult you behind your back. It's great. It's every
Hey,
bit of
man.
Tom Hiddleston bleeding that style into Loki's character full force.
Amen. It's one of the, like you said, it's perfect casting.
Mhm.
Is part of what it is. But the dynamic of everything kind of changes in this episode as we get towards the end, and they come across. It's weird. I've heard her called three different names. One was before it was revealed that it was a her. The second one was um, the second one was the name that she actually refers to herself as on the show.
Mhm.
And then the third is an idea that was given to me by our friend of the show, Mr. Hemphill,
Mhm.
editor in chief of NPC Comics.
Oh boy.
Let's see. So the first one that I heard her call before I even found out that it was her was Lady Loki. Um, Found out that was a character in the comics for a while was Lady Loki.
Mhm.
The character calls herself in the show Sylvia.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, this is where it ties into the prediction that Mr. Hemphill had. He posted a thing on Facebook saying that she's not called Lady Loki, she's called Enchantress. Now, I'm not gonna lie.
God damn it! He spilled it before I could. I fucking love
My
him. I
my
fucking
dumb
love him.
ass was confused because I'm like, no. Enchantress is with Suicide Squad, and that's on DC.
Mhm.
So then I went and I found out that there was an Enchantress, and with the Young Avengers, I believe, and her name was Sylvia. And so at this point in time, I'm beginning to believe that's who she is, but they haven't said it at all in the show, and I think they're doing a really good job because you know how Marvel has that really good job of not revealing anything about anything until the last episode or two. So take it from there, boss, and your reveal
Oh, man.
on Lady Enchantress.
Good fucking catch there. Good fucking catch. The moment that episode one finished with, we've got another Loki on our hands, I was instantly like, okay, we're doing the Lady Loki line.
Yeah,
Like I instantly was like, okay, cool, I'm into this because it's probably one of the most best and well-known standalone Loki storylines. He's had a lot of different standalone comics. The storyline that takes us through the Lady Loki storyline, as it's most commonly called, which is why so many people immediately took to that, is probably one of the top three most popular for very good fucking reason. And I was super hyped to see them rolling into this right away, but obviously they're doing this in the way that we've all talked about before on the show. They're taking the storyline and they're sort of doing their own little thing with it, not just to deviate from the path, but to make something slightly more original and to swerve the hardcore and still impress the casual. And they're doing it fucking amazing again. I do like that. I actually really do like that this version of Loki, the female Loki, doesn't look exactly how she was depicted in the comics. I think this version looks way fucking better. I think this version has way more personality and a lot more to give to the eyes. I think it's way more cohesive and a lot more compelling. But no, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, oh no, finish up because I was gonna take us. I was gonna say that kind of takes us into episode 3, and it's something I
Oh,
was gonna
okay.
bring up.
Okay. Say no more. I'll finish real quick then. But yeah, no. The Enchantress is a very large part of the story of Loki and Thor. They both have a history of running into the Enchantress, and the Enchantress, and I believe his name is the Snake or some form of, both have a history of making new heroes just to be a problem to Loki and Thor. And so I believe that this could just as easily be another Pietro Maximoff swerve. This is not
Yeah,
multiverse Loki. This is the Enchantress once again doing the guys thing that we've seen a million times over in every Thor comic. just as easily, which would be fucking awesome, which is an amazing point to bring up.
Well, which takes me into that scene in episode 3 when they're trapped in that building together, and he calls her a Loki, and she says, "Don't call me that. I am not a Loki." And so like that leaves you wondering, like you said, it could be that Marvel swerve, but it could be, here we go. Now episode 3 was full of fun and lots of adventure with Loki and Sylvia on this planet that's about to be blown up, because in episode 2, a point that we kind of skipped over, we are introduced to the fact that a person can go with the time little thing, a person can go to any and hide in any apocalypse, and wide open in any apocalypse that's happened in history, because that entire area, like they go to Pompeii and Loki jumps up on the cart and starts screaming about being from the TVA and fucking everything else, and they realize it has no effect on the timeline because that place is about to be wiped out, so those people can't
fucking eradicated.
Right. So they figured out that the villain was jumping in between Armageddons as their hiding spot, and when they were after they were killing members of the TVA, and Loki jumped them after her Sylvia's failed attempt to get to the timekeepers. Loki transports them to the worst apocalyptic event to ever exist, and it made for a great episode. We'll get to the end a little bit later, but go ahead and give us your thoughts on episode 3.
First off, we completely forgot just to roll with this. Loki being DB Cooper is the best fucking move in cinema history.
Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot that.
The very second when she was like, "Of course, thank you, Mr. Cooper," and I was like, "Oh fuck no! Oh fuck no!" Loki
that was just amazing.
Being DB Cooper because he lost a bet to Thor is the best move in cinema fucking history. I am serious. Oh my fucking god! I haven't geeked like that in a minute, but I'm so in love with it, bro. I'm so in love with that move.
Oh man, thank you for bringing it up because I had completely forgotten about it.
Don't drop that.
But go ahead.
Oh man, but rolling into episode 3, it was really fucking cool because we had that badass revelation about the apocalypse system. But I had my, of course, little nerd moment when we get to the year 2077.
Yeah.
As a casual, that's just kind of cool. We're in the future, right?
Right.
But as a hardcore, you realize 2077 is a very, very specific year for Marvel history, because that's when we get into the future shock timeline, where everybody gets their crazy ass future versions, where we start to get Spider-Man, Punisher, Doctor Doom, and all of those all coalescing into their future versions, which are basically just them, but over-designed to a mess. It's the best.
I was going to say, the comic version was the 2099 series, correct?
Yeah. This is where we start bridging into the 2099 years.
Right.
So we're getting unbearably close to those at this point, and I'm beginning to. But as we go along, we're seeing even more peaks with how they use their multiverse system. More importantly, as we come along to the end of episode 3, we're starting to see them build their multiverse system more and more cohesively, more and more specifically, and everything has all these rules, which is good, because now you have all these rules to be building your system by. And I like this because their multiverse is a little bit more specific than usually how like a comic book does, right? So I'm really liking how that's progressing, and I'm really excited for how this is all gonna how if you look at the last 3 shows of the Disney Plus Marvel shows, they all kind of have this ongoing theme of little bits and pieces of the multiverse, sort of dipping into their stories. It's not the whole point of the story. This time it's much more specific and on the nose. But leading up to this point, we've seen little bits and pieces of them giving rules to the multiverse and how it works. And I think that's really fucking important, walking up into the Doctor Strange and the Spider-Man movies.
Now, no offense to DC, unlike DC, who just kind of had Flash accidentally run into another verse.
Well, shit, isn't that how it's always worked in DC though? Like, what is Flashpoint?
Oh shit! Flash said, "Oops! Oh, there's this. Oh, this one's different. Okay, keep running." But
you want to see me break the multiverse? You want to see me do it again?
Now, also the other thing that we kind of didn't get to was for episode 2, and we'll close on this because we're down to our last minute or so. The drop of all those resetters that she had been collecting that basically created, you saw where all of a sudden you just saw branch. And effectively we have our multiverse. We have our multiverse of madness. So now as we move forward, we'll begin to see what were some of the consequences of that particular scene. We may not necessarily see a lot of it in Loki, but
there you go. So the words right out of my mouth.
But we will see it soon. Also, just on a side note, real quick, I saw an article that said Gamora is expected to show up in an episode of Loki pretty soon. I'm assuming she'll be another variant.
Oh my god! Because we've already seen, by technicality, we've already seen a variant of Gamora.
Right. So I'm assuming that will be how she ends up coming in. So give final thoughts, and then we'll sign off for the commercial break and come back.
Yeah, leading into the multiverse, and I was one final thought. The immediate episode after the fact, we didn't see the immediate ramifications of her setting off that clusterfuck bomb. That's a very important factor here, that we're not seeing the immediate effects of that on the Lokis yet, or on any specific superhero yet. I like that.
100%. Like, it leaves a whole lot left to not only be desired, but to be seen, and I can't wait for that. All right, y'all. So we're gonna go on ahead and take our first and only commercial break. We will be back from that with some Bad Batch and some Howard the Howard. For those of y'all who are old enough to remember, there was a movie made by Marvel a long time ago called Howard the Duck, and we're going to talk about that after the break. So thank you for listening or watching the Cheap Pop Podcast right on the 4 Aces Presents Radio Network, or on YouTube, or on Spotify, or on wherever the hell you find your favorite podcast. Peace. And we're back. What's up, y'all? It's me, Double K, again here with the one and only Alpha, sir. How you doing?
We started off the show with some Marvel, and now we're going to be bridging straight in some more good Disney Plus original shit with some Bad Batch.
Oh yeah, one of the most interesting Star Wars stories I've seen told in a long time. Like the Mandalorian has its place, and it will always have its place. It's an amazing story, but this is another one of those, just like animated or not, it's just like, give me more Star Wars content.
Literally.
And they're feeding the Star Wars monsters fully. And Bad Batch is another home run as far as I'm concerned. The stories are compelling. Each week's story is compelling. But the last 2 weeks specifically, like we've talked about the first few things in the introduction of the Bad Batch and who they are and so on and so forth. But the last 2 episodes have been very huge because we've gotten fed a lot of information about Omega that we did not have
there we go.
Early on in the series. And so let's kind of focus in to start on that. Like we find out that Omega is important to the Caminos. And we'll get to the next episode because this is what we found out in episode 8, and then we'll get to why, because that we find out in episode 9. But we find out that she's important to the Caminos, so important that they've now put a bounty on her head, so she has bounty hunters looking for her. And you now have the Bad Batch, who were mercs and who were rebel soldiers and are now basically the good guys, protecting young little Omega, which her name makes a lot more sense now, and we'll get to that after we get to episode 9. Her name makes a hell of a lot more sense now. But I love the growing and budding relationship between her and Hunter.
Yes, there you go.
Like she definitely loves him like a dad, and he watches over her like she's his own. That relationship is something that to me is the central point of the storytelling of this kind of entire thing. But yeah, so your thoughts on episode 8, sir?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate again. Bad Batch visually is a stunning show. I adore the style that they've come to put these shows into. It's very clearly just this amazing sort of add-on to the software that they've used to create the entirety of the Clone Wars saga animated series. But the way that they do it with the lighting system now, the way that everything is cel shaded, the way that everything runs as fast as it does on Disney Plus, ends up making Clone Wars' already almost frantic combat system look even more fucking beautiful as we bridge it into this more gun-based, hand-to-hand, not as lightsabery based, more less acrobatic based combat systems. And I just want to say that the show looks fucking amazing.
Yes.
But going into the story of it, yeah, I love the way that they've already progressed in terms of the things that they do so well. It's so fucking cool. And now bridging into this, we have the amazing trope of let's make the hard ass become emotionally connected with someone substantially younger and forces them to get soft.
Pretty much.
And I love that trope to death. And it's done well here with the addition of Omega into the story.
Amen. She was definitely somebody that I didn't see. I saw her coming as a spunky little but she's turning into a little warrior. They got her with her little light bow and arrow, and like she out there kicking ass, and she's learning how to defend herself. And at the end of episode 8, she gets captured by Cab. Oh God, now I forgot his name. I've been trying to remember his name all day from when we did this, and I can't remember it. But she gets captured by a bounty hunter. And
is that Cab?
Yeah.
Cad Bane?
Cad Bane.
Cad Bane,
and
the boy.
And his little sidekick, his little robot sidekick. She gets captured and taken away by them. And we find out that's when we are pretty much introduced to the fact that she has a bounty on her head and that she's a wanted girl. But Yeah, and it led us into episode 9, which was just an action-filled fun fest full of nothing but fighting and fuckery.
There we go. There it is. The juice.
The juice, exactly. But I had some fun with it. We had our first appearance of, or our second appearance of Finnick, Ming Na Wen's character from The Mandalorian. I love the way they crossed her over between the two shows. Y'all go ahead with your
fucking amazing.
And her battle with Cad, and just it was a great episode. It also allowed Omega to shine as a solo character, while the Bad Batch was looking for her. The story more focused on her than it did them, and I definitely enjoyed that about episode 9.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Them homing in on Omega didn't feel forced, and it didn't feel contrived. It didn't feel bullhorned in, and that's very important to the process of this storytelling, because we saw what bullhorning in a story can do, i.e., the final season of Clone Wars and the sister arc.
Yeah.
But this has developed nothing like that at all, and has developed amazingly. I fucking love seeing Cad Bane, and I wish there was always more of him, so I'm never opposed to seeing him. And now, as you see, we have the idea of these matchups that we didn't even think were slightly fucking possible. Nobody was sitting here, everybody and their mom was like, okay, Cad Bane and Boba, Cad Bane and Django. Nobody thought Cad Bane against Space Chun-Li, motherfucker. That's the shit. Yeah. Space Chun-Li. I like that shit a lot. It's something that adds a whole new dimension, because now we have the potential of maybe, even if it doesn't line up on the timeline, the possibility of seeing animated Moff Gideon, animated any one of those characters rolling forward. That's a possibility now.
Yeah. Amen. And now let's get to the big reveal of episode 9. And like I tell people, you're going to hear this and you're going to say to yourself, Omega, oh, it makes a lot more sense now. I'm going to start you off with this. This is the obvious that it should have kind of
tipped you off.
Boba's real name or clone name was Alpha.
Because in the process of creating things, Alpha is the beginning stage of whatever you're making. It is pre-alpha is the idea of you aren't even putting things to paper. Alpha is the formative groundwork that you're laying for creating any project. Now think about that when considering what was Boba used for creating.
And our young girl would happen to be the last clone of her type, which is the last clone to have a pure sample of Jango Fett's DNA. And therefore, she is the last clone that has the full gambit of Jango Fett's DNA, and therefore they named her Omega. It's also part of the reason why they put the hit out for her, or the bounty out for her, is because they need her DNA in order to continue making clones. And we all know that Kamino's entire fucking economy is based around them selling clones or making clones.
Kamino is literally an economy based on clone work.
Yeah. So
that's like basically like that's like being a fucking rhinoceros with a gold-plated tusk in South Africa. You are quite literally a hot commodity with a beating heart. The hottest commodity.
And so we find out that that's effectively the reason why Cad's after her is for the bounty that's been set out on her head for Kamino. But we were not necessarily, well, we were introduced to that there's two forces inside Kamino trying to get a hold of Omega. There's the Grand Chancellor dude, and then there's that chick who hired Finnick to go retrieve her, and for a different reason according to Finnick. So it's definitely some interesting ways it can go from here. I'm looking forward to the next few episodes. I'm glad that, unlike the Marvel shows, Bad Batch most likely won't just be like 10 episodes. Like we'll probably get a good, like maybe 12 or 15 episodes out of them. So but your thoughts on episode 9, sir?
God, it's coming along so fucking well in terms of a story, and now we have a new character added in once again, who is an outspurned clone hanging out with outspurned clones. And see, now this is very specific because the Bad Batch is the opposite of the genetic lottery. We've got 5 genetic fuck ups, and that's why they're special.
Yeah.
And now we've got someone who is the exact opposite. We've got someone who's pulled the Jango Fett genetic lottery and has become quite literally the only pure gene of Jango's bloodline left at that point, which essentially is like saying, yeah, you have the blood of the greatest warrior of the last 5,000 years. Good luck.
You are Scorpion's son.
Hanzo Hisashi.
Oh man, but yeah, no, definitely great storytelling. Can't wait to see what happens next. Shout out to them for including Rex.
Yes.
In the series so far. Like, that was a damn good episode. Like,
Old Man Rex is the headcanon, bro.
Yeah.
Old Man Rex is the headcanon.
So, but we are running limited on time here, so we do got to move on to
let's put the cherry on top.
What was effectively one of the first ever like comic book based movies to be released. And people, let me tell you this, I believe it was released late 80s, like 87, 88.
86.
86, there we go.
86.
And it was just one of those movies that when I was that age, I was only 9 in 86. My mother didn't quite allow me to see it, but by the time I was about 11, she was a little bit more comfortable with me watching it. But as I watch it, yeah, it's got some adult overtones to it, but it's pretty much by far a harmless movie. But we're talking Marvel's Howard the Duck. Now, Howard the Duck was actually a comic book series. Howard the Duck was actually a detective in the comic books, if I remember correctly.
There you go. There you go.
But in this movie, they decided, just like they did in the MCU, that we're going to keep we're going to keep some of the characters, but we're going to make the storyline what the fuck we want it to be. And you get Howard the Duck, the man and this was a part of the comic book lore too as well, but he was sucked from his own planet and brought to Earth. And well, his luck was a little bit better in the movie than it was in the comic books, because he found himself a little lady love in Leah Thompson, who I can't deny her ass was looking fine in that movie. But Leah Thompson and a very young, not Vivica A. Fox, it was Holly Berry Robinson, was the black girl in the punk rock group. But yeah, like it gave us all the classic moments. It gave us everything you would want. Like I said, they didn't really ever, it wasn't like Kevin Feige and MCU. They were in no way trying to keep with what the storyline or
continuity
of the comic
and source material. And no.
This movie was meant to be a one-off, and they did a great job of doing it. Yeah, like your thoughts on Howard the Ducks.
Yeah, man, I had a pretty similar experience, I was watching this with my significant other, my SO, and she was like, what kind of movie is this? Is this a this or that? And I was like, it's a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, Marvel movie. It's a Marvel movie. Follow me, don't worry. She was like, do you think I'm gonna like it? Maybe. Let's see. Maybe.
That's a 50-50 chance there, mama.
Maybe. Let's see. Let's see. And so, this was one of those movies. Like one of my favorite examples is I've seen Hercules. I love that movie so fucking much. Seen it a million times over, right? Love that movie. Learned the script over and over again. And then I watched it when I was 16. I was like, man, there's a lot of really dirty shit in this movie, isn't there? Like, and this was one of those. Like, of course, like sitting down and I'm like little everyone, I was like, duck titties. And 9 years later, duck titties are still funny. I don't care. Duck tits are still funny as fuck. Still funny as fuck. Duck tits are still great. But obviously, now that I'm as old as I am, I look back at it and like I'm just like, man, this really is one of those '80s movies where it's like they made it with the idea to create a kid-friendly product that you can watch with the family. But there's also all of those little jokes for the adults in the audience to be like, like it's one of those little movies, and I'm not gonna sit here and act like it's not critically panned as one of the worst movies ever. That's why we reviewed it.
Yes, yes.
That's
Amen.
why we reviewed it. For those who are oblivious to the fact, that is exactly why we're talking about it here.
Oh man.
And if I can say anything about the whole Loki show from top to bottom, it is such a beautifully eloquent show. It is very, very not slow, but it's meticulous, and it's very specific in its placement. Now, what Howard the Duck lacks in eloquence, it shits out in thunderous degrees in character.
Yeah.
This is one of those movies, like it's Venom effect. Don't look at this, try to break it down. Just laugh at the stupid jokes.
Oh man, like it, and you got to understand, like, oh god, I forget who the dude was, the actor was that played the main villain at the end of it. He was the doctor.
I literally looked at the cast. I forgot his name.
But him, if a lot of people don't remember this, but he was in this movie, and I forget the name of it too. It was with John Ritter, and it was like called Hell something, and
I think I know what you're talking about.
And he played the bad guy in that. He played the devil in that. And I'm just like, I love the actor. He cracks me up because he plays that role so well.
Every time. Quick tidbit: you'll notice he kind of has the tendency to play a bad guy in everything he does. He's kind of typecasted into that. That's his thing.
Hey, back then you took work how you can get it, right?
Oh yeah, it's not bad though. No, please go on though. He's great at it.
But in this particular character, like everything down to even like the CG graphics at the end were so bad they were good. Like this is okay. Yeah. Understand something, folks. Like this is a movie that like he said was not critically acclaimed when it came out.
Yeah.
Like people weren't feeling Howard the Duck. Like they weren't at all. But when you look back on it now, it's one of those movies that you can definitely put that stamp on it. It was such a bad movie. It was good.
Yeah.
Rocky Horror Picture Show falls underneath that.
Absolutely.
Both of the Hot Shots movies, if you remember those with Charlie Sheen and the over the top like Rocky, like he's doing like a kill count, and he's like doing a little kill
like
count,
fucking groaning. It's literally the definition of so bad it's good. And for a lot of people, that's a very hard notion to understand because I didn't understand it at one point. The idea of like, oh, this is so fucking stupid. It's the best thing I've ever seen. What fucking sense does that make? And then you realize you're 2 hours into a movie where canonically, even in the source material, the duck knows quack foo.
Yeah, quack foo.
No, quack foo is canon. That's the thing. Yes. In the comics, quack foo is fucking canon.
I love when he beats the shit out of the manager. Like that's just so tight. Like they slide his little ass off. He jumps back up there. I was just like, get him, Howard.
He really said, I'll pierce the other one too, motherfucker.
Oh man. Now let's get to the scene that kind of made this a not safe for work movie, in the scene between Leah Thompson and the actor in the Howard the Duck suit, and they're in bed together. And let's just say like there was talk of some little interspecies hanky panky and some dudes came along with some fuckery and jacked it all up. So like that scene was not safe for work, but it was safe for work because nothing really happened. Like but don't get me wrong, I was more than happy with the scene staring at Leah Thompson's nice little body,
fucking
just her little pair of panties looking all fine. But other than that, like we had some interspecies, hanky panky. It's all like
kind of giggle at myself with midget in a suit. But
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it's
a furry midget. No,
furry midget. No, it's funny because like as a kid, I took that way too seriously, and now 20 at age 20, I look at it and I'm just like, oh no, this is not even reminiscent of her just trying to get laid. This is just females doing what females do, trying to start some shit and be a goddamn tease. God damn it. And then he gets rudely cocked blocked by fucking Filzy and the two Fox. And let me just say the overacting on part of the guy who plays as Filzy is just great. You know, I understand so many people hate overacting, but in this one case, it was hard not to see him do something stupid, like completely behind everybody else doing something stupid, and him just be fucking utterly retarded. I loved it.
My favorite scene with him is when what's his name turns into the beast, into the full beast, and or the beast jumps out of him and he turns into he comes out and he stands up and that thing goes, Rah! He's like,
drop.
And then she runs over, wakes his ass up. He comes to enough to still see that thing coming and just goes, like, I am not awake for this. Like,
you ring the bell.
I am not here for this at all. Like, he wasn't having none of it. And that shit just had me on the floor because, you know, like, we all don't know how the hell we would react if a giant creature just appeared on the other side of a warehouse from us and started walking to. Nobody knows.
No.
But 99% of us are probably going to scream in terror and probably all the excitement is
clock the fuck out.
And just hope the thing sniffs you and moves on.
Yep.
Like, but yeah, nah.
Oh man. You know, it's all of that 80s overacting, all of the 80s bad acting. You can see when Dr. Jennings goes from his actual actor into the prosthetic with the tube out of his mouth, and then it's all of the 80s glory in all of its goodness. The CGI over the eyes all the way down to the sloppy CG into the animation. It's all of that sloppy 80s shit. Amazing. I try to and if I were to put it into physicality, let me teach you something. My favorite video game of all time has this mechanic where they tried to make an enemy, and the enemy had to have a perception stat of 0, right? But they fucked up on the system so that when they wrote it in as 0, when implementing into the actual game, they fucked it up and it went below 0 and looped. So the enemy now in the flat full paid version of the game has a perception stat of 99, which is the max it can go. That's what Howard the Duck does. At some point, you go below 0 and you get to 99.
No, I do give him credit though. Yeah. That
literally
was great. Like, okay, dude. Like he was like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. Nah, I'm like, what the fuck? Dude, why are you guys letting this dude drive? Like,
literally.
It's almost as bad as I was describing to a friend of mine the other day. I was talking to somebody about Rutger Hauer in Blind Fury. I don't know if you've ever seen
my fucking God, dude.
But
literally just the voice,
But there's a scene in Blind Fury where Rutger Hauer is driving the van and he pulls up to a stoplight and this guy pulls up from around him because he cut him off. He's like, what are you, fucking blind? And Rutger Hauer turns to him and goes, yeah, I am. And the dude's like, what the hell? And he drives off. Blind dude driving the van.
Yeah,
oh, man.
Pretty much.
You know, like it
That's
just made
good.
for a great moment. Yes. But that's enough, Howard, for today. Overall, I give the movie an A for being better than what we truly deserved at that point. Because now that I look back on it, like I said, the movie was so bad it was good. So, final thoughts on Howard, sir.
Yeah, man. As a memory from my past, I swear I remember this movie being a lot shorter, but it's not a fucking snooze fest. It's an entertaining little shitty 80s flick. It gets an A for effort. It gets the Golden You Tried Award. I love this stupid fucking movie.
complete with 80s theme song.
I was gonna say, complete with 80s outro soundtrack for Howard the fucking Duck. Oh man.
Too bad that movie couldn't have been more popular. But anyway, all right, so that'll do it for us for this week. Next week, we will be taking ourselves straight to hell and talking Hell in a Cell and the aftermath. And then also taking a sneak peek at AEW and talk a little bit about their new upcoming show in August, Rampage. And whether or not it's a good idea for them to do Rampage, considering AEW Dynamite didn't do that good in a time slot that that Rampage is supposed to be coming on. So
yeah, let's if Raw didn't do well, so we add a SmackDown. Right.
Yeah. But yeah. All right. So yeah, that's it for us for this week. Alpha, any last words for him?
That's the cap on it. You know how it is, my people. Please be safe and stay cool as we reach the dead worst parts of the summer. And I will live and die by the statement that 9 years later, duck tits are still fucking funny. Good night.
Peace.